Okay, welcome back to episode 21 of Ag Inspire Conversations. My name is Tommy Heffernan. The concept is very simple. It's to have interesting conversations with people doing inspiring things in agriculture. My next guest is absolutely no different. I've met several farmers this year and they said to me, do you know Hazel Mullins? Do you know Hazel Mullins? So good evening to you, Hazel Mullins.
Hi, Tommy. Thank you so much for having me on. Oh my God, that's an intro and a half. Thank you. Yeah. Well, do you know Hazel Mullins? You'll probably know a bit more by the end of it now, will you?
Yeah, well, a lot of people will know you, but I suppose just to give people background, you're dairy farming. I think you're a dairy farmer. You certainly post from your farm at home. You're a vet, a very passionate farm animal vet, and you're also what would be classed now as a social influencer. So we'll talk about all that stuff as the evening goes on. And look, you're somebody I've gotten to know over the years, and you're incredibly positive is one thing I'll say about you. And you're very humble and you're very honest as well, and I always admire that. So I suppose let's have a chat about who's Hazel Mullins. So give us a little bit of background.
Okay. Well, as you said, dairy farming is kind of where I was born in. Now, my dad is a dairy farmer in Carricknavar in Cork, and I suppose I'm an only child, so it was just me and my dad. I was very much out on the farm the whole time. My mum always tried to get me to do like housework, and I was having none of it. I would like clean out like 10 calf pens rather than, brush the floor of the kitchen. But so I was kind of a daddy's girl and always was outside with him. And I suppose my mum was working as a teacher, and dad used to collect me from work or from school, and sometimes it might be in the tractor even he'd collect me. And we had land kind of rented near the school, so kind of grew up going looking at the cattle, working with him, milking the cows and helping out as much as I could. And so I suppose just grew up around the farm, and I had a pony, and like my dad has greyhounds as well, and that's a big part of our lives. And I suppose it's just animals everywhere all the time. And never actually thought that veterinary, I always dreamed of being a vet, but I never ever had confidence in myself that I had the brain power to do it. Because in school I was I think I only probably clued into the whole study thing maybe in second or third year of school, and then kind of at that stage then I was kind of diagnosed with dyslexia, and then that was a big kind of wall up for me to languages. And as you know, Leaving Cert is made up of not just science but languages and science, so just I suppose that was maybe a bit of a barrier to getting the points for UCD, and so that's why I looked elsewhere, and I looked to Nottingham, and that's how I ended up over there. And did my interview, and I suppose they liked the fact I was from a farm and had kind of farming background and experience, because a lot of vets in the UK maybe have more small animal experience and equine experience, and hopefully that might have played to my advantage of getting in as well. But I got the grades that I needed in the end, and I went off to the UK for 6 years and left my poor dad mourning behind.
Talk to me about that. Go back to the farm again, because it's very interesting when you travel around the world now, and I talk to lots of farming families, and you can see a shift about kind of the perception of agriculture, and be it even in schools. And I had a very sad conversation in Germany with a dairy farmer, and we talked about his children been ostracized in school because they were farming. And you described what is a very idyllic upbringing where farming was part of who you are, and your values, and your dad coming to school. What was it like back then to be a farmer? Like when I was young, like farmers' daughters and sons were always respected. Like farming was always respected. It was held in high regard. Was that the case when you were growing up? When you obviously you're one of the only probably coming in a tractor, been collected in a tractor.
I know that was only a very odd time that happened, but I was so proud as a little girl to get on the tractor. But then kind of as I got into my 12, 13, like 6th class, I was kind of like, oh God, Dad, like what are you doing? I think it was mixed. I think there was a time when I was maybe not as forthcoming of being a farmer's daughter, maybe in my early teens. And then I think I went to a city school. So I was surrounded, I only had actually she's my best friend, and she's a farmer's daughter. We kind of found each other in the class, and everyone else pretty much was from non-farming background. And I think it was only then that I became really proud of being a farmer's daughter. And then, you know, I was kind of known as the girl who had the cows and wanted to do veterinary and that kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely remember in primary school that I didn't talk about it, and I was a bit more reserved about it. And there was a good few farming sons and daughters in my class, but I definitely feel like when I became maybe less common in my classes, you know, this farm girl from a farming background, I think that's when I really became proud to be that and promote it as well. So I tell the girls about it.
I always get that sense from you of how proud you are of your farming background, obviously, and it led you into your veterinary career. You mentioned that you were dyslexic. So when you're going through school and you learn something like that, I actually didn't know that. So that's a big thing. I suppose maybe it's good to discover it. And how did you deal with it? Did you deal with it in a positive way, or did you say, God, did you take a bit of time to get your head around it and how you were going to maybe progress academically wise?
Yeah, I was diagnosed in third year, just before my junior cert, and I always had really bad handwriting. And anyone knows me, they know my handwriting is atrocious. And so I just always thought I just had bad and my spellings. I remember I used to have to cheat in my spelling class in primary school because you'd get homework for the weekend if you had more than 3 spellings wrong, and I physically couldn't not have that. You know, I'd always have more. So like it was such, you know, I think that's why the teacher never copped it, because I did so well in my spelling tests. But that was the only time, like, that was, you know, I got over that. But I think it was a shock to be told, but it just made so much sense. Everything just fell into place then, because, you know, I kind of made sense of why I couldn't distinguish words and spell. Like, I can read fine, but it's more my spelling.
Okay.
And it could take me a long time to look at a word and try and spell it. And I think maybe, obviously, veterinary has a lot of big, long, you know, Latin inspired words, which probably isn't the easiest profession to be dyslexic in. But yeah, and it's only something that kind of came to, you know, on Instagram lately, actually. Another vet in the UK, Sophie Harding, she is a large animal vet as well. And we were just chatting about it. And, you know, we were sending voice messages and saying, and we had the exact same stories of how, you know, it's come, you know, maybe against us a little bit in our profession, but, you know, we overcome it as well. And yeah, I wouldn't say it stopped me. And, you know, in university we got a lot of help and there was a lot of support. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to live with. But yeah, it's embarrassing when you're doing, you know, stories on Instagram and things, and like, you do not see the spelling mistakes, and then people message you going, did you mean this?
Well, Instagram is a much more forgiving place. We're going to get to that, and you could be doing it on Twitter where people tear you apart. But anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit. So you went to Nottingham. You're like being an only child as well, and being so connected to your father, and having that close relation with your parents. Was that a hard journey for you to go over to leave home, or were you excited and couldn't wait to get started?
A bit of both, I think. My dad thought I'd last a week. Right. He literally, when he said goodbye to me, there was no sadness, because he was like, she'll be back. Like, there's no way. And I think I was very nervous, and I didn't really know what I was going into. I was 18. I hadn't really traveled a lot growing up, you know, because of the farm and things. We didn't go on a lot of holidays, and I don't know, I was just kind of a duck out of water, I think. And I remember going into the halls of residence, and it was all so new. And next thing, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, like, oh, you know, will I stay with you tonight? And, you know, like in the hotel down the road or whatever. And I was all nervous. And then one of my housemates was like, oh, Hazel, there's a party on tonight down in the bar. Are you coming? And I was like, okay. And then off I went, and then just fell like in love with the place and made friends for life. And yeah, it was brilliant. It was a very different kind of unique university experience to what maybe I thought I'd be going to maybe UCC to do. Actually, my second choice was engineering.
Okay.
and which is completely different.
My
And
second choice back in the day was civil engineering UCC as well, actually.
was
And
it?
I
Yeah.
know a few vets who actually had engineering second choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's maybe because maybe we're good at maths, and I put down chemical engineering because I loved chemistry, and I think I would have been the worst chemical engineer in the world. Like, I have no spatial vision. My maths really aren't that good, and yeah, I'm very glad that I ended up in veterinary because I think I probably would have went down agricultural route, but it just wasn't something that was talked about a lot in school, I think.
Okay.
Because I was in a very much city school. It wasn't really taught as an option, even though I did ag science outside of school and things. But yeah, I'm very glad I ended up in Nottingham and, became a vet in the end. And it was an adventure,
Veterinary is a hard course, obviously, but like when I was in college, I think one of the best things that happened to me was I went to college young and I had a great time socially because I think it developed me. I learned all different skills from the social aspect of it. Was college a good time for you? Like, it was one of the best times I ever had in my life. Even though veterinary was hard and all that, we had a great class, we had a great life there. Was it good for you?
Yeah, it was great. Like, I think anyone that knows Nottingham campus, it's like a little bubble. It's out in the middle of the countryside. It's actually in Leicestershire, so it's not even in Nottingham. And Nottingham City is a half an hour on a bus. And then if you want to go to Nottingham City to go out, you'd have to get the bus, get a taxi then from main campus into the city, and then you'd have to arrange a taxi home. And it was like being back in Carricknavar trying to go out in Cork City again. It was, it took a little bit of an effort. So actually we did a lot of our partying in the student bar on campus, which was, like another universe. It was just, everyone knew everyone, and it was really lovely. And we had great parties, and there was always like themed nights and fancy dress. I had so much fancy dress. It was, but I definitely was probably quite studious as well, and I definitely probably could have went out a little bit more than I did, but I think it was just very important for me not to succeed as well. And I had a good balance, I think.
So you are quite driven. I know that from you because I even know you as from being a young veterinary circle in Ireland is small, and when you qualified first, you were out and you were in Kerry, but you were involved in the clinical societies. Yeah. Then you moved to Cork, and we'll talk about that, but you were involved in the veterinary clinical society there. You were involved in Macron Pharma. So you're quite you seem like quite an organised person, Hazel, to me anyway, from the outside. But you're not afraid to get stuck in, really, essentially. You're not afraid to get stuck in.
I think as well, I was in VetSoc in Nottingham, and I was the secretary and treasurer over there, and I loved the kind of community feel of that, and having, something to do with the vet school and organising events. Like, I love organising like parties and things like that, and like, kind of educational things as well. But yeah, I moved, like when I first graduated, I was in Killarney and working as a vet there, and I got approached to be the secretary of the clinical club, and I'd say I was only maybe 4 months out, I'd say. And of course I kind of was like, oh well, look, I don't know, I didn't have a network of vets in Ireland, so I didn't know anyone, so I thought it was be a good opportunity to make myself known to others and also kind of get a bit of a veterinary community around me. And that definitely, like, I made some wonderful friends, like from 80 years of age down to 25, it was just lovely. And we were such, and like the Christmas parties in Kerry were legendary, like they were brilliant. And, I think I wanted to bring back a bit of glam to the Christmas parties. So there was lots of Prosecco and yeah, it was great.
There's some great characters, because like that's where I saw practice with vets in Kerry. Yeah. And there's some unique characters in Kerry anyway, and I know I'm biased, but it's a great county. So you qualified as a vet, right? You started in Kerry and you moved to Cork. What was the first couple of years in practice like for you?
So in Kerry, it was very much mixed practice. So I had everything from dogs and cats to, I don't know, donkeys, goats, everything. And it was a really good start, just to see all the different species and, just try and find my way. I always wanted to be either an equine vet, I think, or a cow vet. And then I think in kind of the last year of rotations, kind of realized that more, I loved the cows. So I was very homesick, and I came home straight away after graduating. I don't know if that was the best thing for me, maybe for my heart, but I don't know, was it the best? Like, there's a lot of really good jobs in the UK for new grads. And, I think maybe I should have stayed another year and had like, a real structured, kind of nearly internship first year. But then I did kind of enjoy being thrown into the deep end a little bit. Like, I was supported, like I was never, I wasn't out doing sections on my own or anything like that. But, second weekend working, I was on call with help, backup. But, I was kind of definitely a steep learning curve. And I think a lot of vets in Ireland probably have that experience. And, yeah, I don't know. Does it damage us or does it make us stronger? I'm not sure.
It can be a sink or swim occasion. I remember the late Teddy Clifford, who I saw practice in Kerry, who was an absolute gentleman. They said, there's two options for you, Tommy. You can go out and get absolutely no help at all and learn by doing, and that's a struggle, he said. And that's what I did, and that's what a lot of vets, or you can get completely supported, where you have that support for, the first year. And that's good as well, but your growth is slower. And it depends on the person, I think. I was very much like you. I was thrown in the deep end, but I think it's somewhere in between. I think individuals probably have to make that choice of what they're comfortable with. If you feel very uncomfortable, it's not the place to be, probably. But I know by you there was no problem to you, Hazel, right? I know by you. So you're out for a couple of years. What you said you love cows. I've heard you say that several times before. I have to ask you the question: why do you love cows so much? Maybe it's an obvious question. I don't know.
I just think as an animal, they're usually a nice animal to work with. They're in a herd as well, so you're not just looking at one animal. You're kind of looking at the whole group of them. I think the diseases make a lot of sense to me. They're very kind of logical, and I love to read about them, and I love, it just makes sense to me. And I just think there's a routine to examining the cow, and there's there is to every species, I think, but I don't know, I'm just very comfortable with them. I have vets friends that didn't grow up around cows, and they love cows, and they probably love cows for different reasons than I do. And like, I do think cows also bring hardship and a lot of work for farmers, and I know that with my dad, and I suppose that's a side that I'm aware of as well, that they're not easy, but I think they are a nice animal to work with. And I don't really know why I do, but I'm just drawn to them. And the farmers, if you ask any farmer that I go out testing to or something, like, it's all like, "Oh, are you okay, darling?" and ladies and sweethearts, and like, unless they kick me now, right, it might get a little bit profound, but generally,
I'm passionate for cows.
Generally, I talk to them very nicely, and I try to treat them with respect.
I think it's a great attitude to have. Talk to me about, just before we go back to the veterinary again and talk about the stuff you're doing, to maybe just the farming you do at home. How often are you milking cows? What's the farm at home like? What's happening with the farm at home?
Yeah, so my dad milks about 55 kind of Frisian, British Frisian cows, and they're like just kind of growing up there, and I don't get us home as much as I would like. I've kind of moved out of home for this year as well, so I don't get home as much as I would have. I lived at home for the last 2 years, and that was intense. But I did enjoy helping out, and like, I suppose, who knows what's in the future? I don't know myself. I know that I want to be involved, and I don't know what that kind of element will be. But yeah, like dad, when I ever see a missed call from dad, usually it means there's something amiss, or he wants advice, and we've got a very close relationship, and a lot of the work as well, we've got a lot of greyhounds as well, so that takes up a lot of time as well. And I kind of do all the veterinary work on the farms, and I think the farm has evolved as well since I graduated. You know, we've implemented a few new things, and he's taken on board a couple of things I've recommended as well. So it's good. It's good to be able to help out. Like, I wouldn't classify myself as a part-time farmer or anything like that. I definitely am a large animal vet who helps out on the farm with my dad, but who knows, in the future will that change and the balance might be slightly different. But for now anyway, we'll just do our best at what we're doing.
It's nice to have that opportunity if that's something you want to do or feel like you need to do. The greyhounds are interesting. I remember when I qualified many years ago, one of the first splurges myself and a couple of friends was we bought a greyhound. Top Business was the greyhound's name, and the greyhound wasn't very good, but we had great fun going to the greyhound races. And I suppose I've always liked greyhound racing. I've never been involved in anything like that, bar that dog, but I've seen it evolve, and you know, it's had a tough time over maybe the last particularly couple of years as an industry. You're certainly somebody who very much advocates for greyhound racing still and is very proud of that. Can you tell me a little bit about your involvement in greyhound racing, or maybe the insights into where is greyhound racing now in relation? Maybe it was probably last year was a hard year for greyhound, or the year before.
Last year was tough, and you know that the documentary came out in prime time, and it literally rocked our whole world, because you know, we are involved in, my dad, I think I'm the fourth generation. I'd say, look, I'll call myself a greyhound trainer, and fourth generation greyhound trainer in my family. And, you know, they've always been such a big part of our family, and we've respected them. And they all have pet names. They're all fed better than ourselves. Like, they have a wonderful life on the farm as well. They get to we live down a cul-de-sac, so they get to roam around, and their dad's complete passion is greyhound racing. So it did rock our world to see such negative press, and I think probably it was needed, because there is a few bad apples, as in every industry, and I think things needed to change. The good greyhound trainers needed to be elevated and promoted, and the bad ones needed to be stopped. So a lot of things have come in place. You know, there's more record keeping now of rehoming and retired, and you know, dogs maybe that got injured and not able to race anymore. So there's a lot more record keeping now, keeping track, so numbers can't be manipulated, if you get me. So and there's actually a shortage of greyhounds for rehoming at the moment, which is amazing shift. And even my friend the other day said, God, Hazel, everyone seems to have a greyhound rehome, you know, like as a rehomed pet at the you know, walking around, you know, the Blackrock Walk here in Cork and things. There's a lot more greyhounds, and it's wonderful to see that they are becoming more of an animal that people are thinking as a pet as well. Obviously they're both, to me, they're both pets and a commercial animal. And you know, we do race them, and we have a lot of long history of racing greyhounds in my family. So I'm very proud to be a greyhound trainer, and I will, anyone that would like to come and, you know, see how I treat my greyhounds are more than welcome, you know. But I think just more transparency in the industry is important. And I treat a lot of greyhounds because, you know, people know my dad, so they have a lot of, you know, it's good when you kind of know the lingo. And and you know, I do a lot of kind of blood work with greyhounds, and I don't really touch any injuries. I leave that to maybe other greyhound vets, but it's nice to kind of keep your foot in the door there a little bit. And
I was going to talk to you about veterinary, but I still haven't got there. But I have another question for you, right? Because I was listening to the radio this morning, and you know, Aidan OBrien's younger son, his name evades me now. He trained the winner in the Melbourne Cup this morning. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a horse vet. We were talking about like how that, like, I know they have great stock that they work with, but how does he must have the eye that his dad has for racing? So you're talking about being a greyhound trainer. I didn't realize you were a greyhound trainer now. So when you're looking at a young greyhound, right, you're looking at, you know, what are the attributes for a young greyhound that you're going to say, yeah, that greyhound has huge potential? Or is it when they get to the track, you really only know that they have potential or don't have potential? Or do you have an eye for that greyhound that's out there as a sapling or a pup or whatever it might be, and you could say, that's the one?
Well, Tommy, if we had that knowledge, then I don't think I'd be off in the Bahamas somewhere or something, wouldn't I? But I think, look, every greyhound person has what they like in a dog. So whether they like them a long dog or, you know, a short nose or any of these kind of things. But you know, a racy looking greyhound. That's a good way to.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a racy looking pup. That's which is kind of, you know, he looks like he can run.
Okay.
It's hard to explain it, but and I think I like a friendly dog too.
Okay.
A dog that comes up to you, and that's why like half my dogs are more pets than actually any good, because I make complete fools of them. So yeah, I don't think there's a science to it. Like I do think maybe in horse racing there's a slight more a defined, you know, what a good looking horse is, but I don't know. I think it's absolutely potluck with greyhounds, and it's
I think you're underselling yourself there, Hazel.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I do have a nice dog coming up now called Creamery. What's his name? Creamery. It's Creamery Astaire, because his pet name is Fred. So he's Fred Astaire. Yeah. So he looks promising. So I'm hoping the best.
Watch out for that. No, so you give me the text when he's running.
I will.
He's going to win, and I can go back gambling even though I gave it up years ago.
Yeah.
That's another day's work. But Hazel, right? Let's talk veterinary, because this is obviously why you're so well known is through your veterinary work. You're a farm animal vet now in Cork. Talk to me about your sort of daily routine, weekly routine, bits of the job that you love. You know, just talk to me a little bit about, I suppose, your day-to-day work and why you love veterinary and you're very passionate about it.
Okay. I suppose my weekly routine, generally Mondays and Tuesdays, there's some form of TB testing on Mondays and Tuesdays, and I think that goes maybe across the board for a lot of cow vets in Ireland. Yeah. And some weeks I might get a Monday or Tuesday off, and I'll be off doing calls or scanning. And then Wednesday is kind of my appointment day, so that's where I will be doing scanning, or I might do a small animal clinic in the morning, or, you know, like I'm doing the dry cow consults on Wednesdays and any kind of time in between at the moment. But then we're on a 1 and 4 rota for summer, and then in spring it goes to 1 and 3. We kind of take a few vets from the small side, and we make 6 for the spring. And so generally in spring I'm on 2 nights a week, second on call those 2 nights, and then every third weekend. So it suits me. I kind of like to have a little bit more sleep maybe, but have one more day on call. That's the way we kind of work it. And that, well, we'll see now this spring, but that's generally how we work it in Abbeville. And so it's just kind of a mixture of emergency calls, you know, disease outbreak, maybe investigations, scanning, TB testing. And then spring, as you know, is just one big mental adventure, really. So
do you have a call that you get? Did you say you love that call? I used to love calving cows. I liked it. I didn't like I didn't mind the prolapse. No, I didn't mind it many, but
definitely not prolapses.
Would you have a call that you would you get at night time and nobody wants to get out of bed at night time, but that you're kind of almost excited for, that you enjoy that? Have you a call there? Did you in your head did you think, yeah, that's one that I love doing? I love doing milk fevers. I love doing whatever it might be.
Well, I love milk fevers because generally you think that you're going to be back in bed quite quickly again. But I do enjoy a calving, not a section as such, but I enjoy like a twin calving. That's like a lovely call. And especially when they're alive, like I know generally a lot of the time, maybe 50% of the time, sometimes we're there too, it's too late, and because twins have a tendency to just run out of room and oxygen and as such. But yeah, I think a twin calving, because it means that you don't have to do a section, but you still have the satisfaction of trying to, fix the puzzle of what leg is what, where and what head and that kind of thing. And it takes time to kind of even like the other day I had one and I was like, oh my God, which bit is which, and yeah, it's still challenging. And I think that's important to always just challenge yourselves a little bit as vets. And I think Pat Divley has a really good saying that you shouldn't be like a big fish in a small box. So you should always try and broaden your horizon. So I like a call that challenges me a little bit, but yeah, that'll probably be my favorite type of call.
Have you noticed your, and I certainly know, and we'll get to the Instagram stuff, but from following you, that you're very much into prevention, and you're working more on herd-based stuff all the time. You've seen that, you know, even since I've known you, you know, you get good at the clinical work and then you move on to that preventative approach. So what are the sort of, I suppose, in the year that's gone by, what are the herd-based problems that you've seen? Because you're in the dairy area predominantly. I know there's not much sheep down that neck of the woods. What are the herd-based stuff that you've been seeing this year that you've been working on? Maybe trends that you've seen for farmers, that maybe issues that we're seeing a bit more of?
Trends like coughing cows, big trend this year. Definitely did one or two kind of investigations with BALs, and one of them didn't really come to anything. It was just a mystery. And the other ones then, we diagnosed lungworm. And I think just with the weather this year, it was a year for the coughing cow. Pneumonia, I think back in kind of March, April, outbreaks in calves as well. And I did a lot of kind of investigations there. I think mineral profiles and things like that, you know, like kind of cows not in calf, you know, looking for reasons why cows aren't in calf. Even though this year I think generally it was a good year for fertility. There was one or two farms that we had that actually had lepto outbreaks because they weren't vaccinating. And I think, you know, we're often asked, I don't know if you're asked, but sometimes I'm asked, oh, what vaccine can I drop? Like, I'm sick of vaccinating for everything. And, you know,
very much, yeah.
And it's very hard, you know, you can't answer it, because God forbid that, you know, a month or two later, they're going to have an outbreak, or a year later, they're going to have an outbreak because, you know, you said, oh, well, that one isn't as important. So I think they're all important. And, you know, you just have to look at your farming system and see. But yeah, I suppose lepto is in the environment. It's, you know, it's hard. It's a zoonotic. And I think, you know, it's one of those, you know,
non-negotiable, what I would call lepto, because of the zoonotic. And then if you get it fertility-wise, it can be devastating, and it's not the nearest vaccine. So you've taken your career, you're working more on prevention now, you work on the clinical stuff, but you're going doing further studies. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started last April kind of a certificate in production animal medicine in Edinburgh. So it's basically the same course that's in Liverpool, but you don't have to be a member of the RCVS to do the cert and get your qualification. But you can pay your membership to become a cert AVP. So I'm just at the moment I'm doing a cert ACP, which is clinical practice instead of veterinary practice. So it's just slightly different, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And we've just started a module there last week on, we know you've got the compulsory module. So it's basically like you've got the 4 compulsory, and then you get to do the 2 kind of fun ones, as I call them, you know, because it's more like repro or nutrition. So I've done the nutrition one. I've done recent advances in farm animal medicine, which was really good, and looking at different papers and just things that you don't generally do. You know, you might look up a paper, but you mightn't critically appraise it. And that was quite interesting for me to do, and just got my head tuned back into how we did things in university. And I suppose I'm 7 years out now, and I was a little bit green and out of practice. So it just took a little bit of time for my brain to click back in. But now this one I've just started is on communication. So it's definitely more thinking outside the box, and you know, a bit more psychology, and looking at papers that aren't as scientific. They're more, I suppose, qualitative than quantitative. But yeah, it's interesting, and it definitely, I'm reading it and I'm like, oh my God, I don't do that in practice, or yeah, I do that all the time. So it's nice to see things that I am doing right, but actually things that maybe I could incorporate into maybe making my communication slightly better as well to farmers and things.
Talk to me about the relationship with farmers, because I've talked to this about recently, as I see a lot of the professions, and particularly maybe the veterinary profession, is almost like a coaching, a mentorship part, or that trusted advice on farm. So when you're learning about communication, you are a very good communicator, because I think you're very honest, and you're very much, there's no how would I put it? There's no hidden agendas with you anytime you meet you. You're exactly as you are. You know, you have a positive attitude. If people don't like that, there's always going to be people that don't like different things. But so you're going to get people engaged with you straight away. What have been your lessons, and maybe when you're reading those papers at the moment, that you think about communication? What does good communication look like for vets maybe listening, or younger vets that are maybe starting off in that career? Because it's a really important piece to get that bond and that relationship going to start between yourself and your clients.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's coming into, our teaching in university as well. Like I was taught, communication skills, and we had a lot of, we had actors come in and teach us, and it was scary, but it actually, and then we hated it at the time, but actually it really stood to us, and it really stood to me, because I even remember examples, like there was a farmer actor came in, and she was pretending to be a farmer, and we had to break the news of a TB reactor to her, and she just didn't react well, and we had to be empathetic and try and communicate well. And yeah, I think since the course I just little key words like active listening, just even listening. Sometimes you come on the farm and you're just really busy and you just need to get to the next call, and you're thinking about maybe that call, and you're not in the present, and you're not maybe, but I think it's very important to start the communication from the minute you open the door of the van or the Jeep, or, putting on your wellies, and try and get your, build rapport first, talk about the weather, or, something that happened during the week, or, and then say, oh, and you have a sick cow, and get your information. And I think building rapport, listening, empathy, I think they're all very important. And yeah, just being present on the call and not thinking about what else you have to do, and just focusing on their priorities. And their priority is the cow at the time, and maybe it mightn't be the priority. They might be having things going on in their lives that they don't want to. The cow is the least important thing. There might be something on in their personal life, and sometimes you as a vet, you might be the only one that they see outside of their family all day. And I can definitely tell when some farmers, ones that I know well, are having bad days, or and it's nice to build that relationship, and it's hard though, because sometimes you become such good friends with farmers, and then you move job, and it's literally like a breakup, because you feel like you've built up such a trustworthy relationship with them, and then like you will stay, like I've stayed friends with a lot of my farmers from other jobs, but it is inevitable as well, like that you will lose contact as well, and that's really sad. And I found that really challenging. This is my third job now, and I think that's a challenge for me, is saying goodbye to people as a vet, and saying that, look, I'm moving on, and yeah, I think that's tough.
That shows wonderful commitment to your job and what you do, and your clients. Is it a burden when you're and I'm putting words in your mouth or making assumptions, but when you are that devoted and you are empathetic and overly empathetic, it can mean that you take the worries of other people with you, or you maybe go beyond where you need to go beyond with people, past the call of duty, which is a fantastic attribute. Empathetic people are what the world needs more of, but it puts a lot of pressure on you then. If you become a sounding board for maybe the worries of the world of somebody, especially when you're trying to do clinical work and get on the day. Have you been challenged by that, or is it something you're comfortable with as somebody who's empathetic?
I wouldn't say that, obviously if there was, if there was something that was upsetting someone, I would take it on board, but I don't allow myself to get sucked in, I suppose, to, I would send, if there was something I could help them with, or refer them to someone, or give them a number of someone that could help, or even send a text going, I hope yesterday went okay, or, I think it is like, and it's in small animals as well, when you've got, putting down animals, and that emotional contact and support that you have to give, and you can get like some people probably get sucked into that, and I definitely feel like I'm there in the moment, and I'm there, but I do leave it behind me at the practice as much as I can, and yeah, like I do, as you said, like I do wear my emotions on my sleeve. Like if I'm having a bad day, everyone will know about it, and everyone, like I definitely am very I suppose expressive as a person, and I don't really like, I probably overshare, you know. And I definitely know farmers that if they listen to this, they're like, oh yeah, like I definitely know way too much about Hazel's personal life.
But you don't share it in a way, and maybe you don't share in a way like where you're moaning about the world or giving out about the world. You're just honestly unloading. I think that's the thing that's, and we'll talk about social media next. I think that's what's so refreshing about you, is that honesty. And every time I meet you, you're just very honest about everything, and it's incredibly humbling. So I don't think you're I'm not saying moaning, but you're not giving out about the world. You're just expressing yourself, which is totally fine.
Yeah, and I don't give out too often, but I do have bad days as well, and I think that's maybe something that I'm constantly kind of aware of with social media, because obviously social media is showing a Snapchat or a snapshot of your positive life, and I definitely think I try to maybe just show a little bit of a bad day, just to make maybe other vets or other people know that it's not all, lovely baby calves and nice coffees and that kind of thing. So it's definitely something that I have to be aware of, because I don't want people either getting a false impression of veterinary either. So I have a lot of vet students following me, and I feel like I am quite responsible for portraying the profession in a true light. And I love my job. There's wonderful positives to it, but there's also like negatives and bad days. So I think sometimes I just need to be a bit more, I'm slightly maybe on the positive side, but it's a good way to be. But it's
a really good way to be, because the world needs more positivity, but you don't need to be eternally positive, because nobody is on that high all the time, unless so but what, like, you have a wonderful attitude, and I'm going to go back to it again, but so have you worked on that, or has that always been something that, when it's raining, you probably see that, there's something good about the day, that, and I get that impression from you. There's always, you will, some people will see the brighter side of it, the glass is half full. Is that something you've always done, or is it something you have to work to, or have you routines and ways of thinking about it to keep yourself in that sort of frame of mind? Because it's a very powerful thing to have, and you're very lucky to have it.
And I honestly don't know where I don't ever remember being a glass half empty kind of person. I do think I am very grateful for my opportunities and, the people in my life and things like that. So I think my mum as well has always been quite a positive person, and she kind of instills in me that don't ever worry, we'll figure things out, or things will be okay. And I think that's a big thing to kind of keep in mind. And I don't know, I think it's just you either love me or you hate me. And I think look, people that know me knows that I am very honest. And if you ask me like what you think of this dress, and I'm like, could be any other one. I don't pretend a lot. So look, to answer your question, I don't really know where it's come from, and I don't think it's something that I've had to work very hard on. It's just, but look, we're all formed by, external environments, and I think probably just people that I surround myself with are quite positive.
Good. Very good lessons in that. Lessons for people in general. So let's go to social media, because this is where people will know you from. And I think it's the veterinary, it's the posh coffees, it's the, it's the farming, it's the greyhounds, and you've really amassed this. I think you would be classed now as a social influencer. Certainly in the veterinary world, you're a social influencer. So how did you stumble upon, I know everyone nowadays is on social media, or a large proportion. How did you stumble upon it, or how did you start doing it? Was it an accident, or just you started sharing your stories and people were interested? Is that how it started?
I think it was an accident in a way, because I started off because Snapchat was really popular, like maybe 4 years ago, and my friends are all on Snapchat, and like I used to be going out at 3 a.m, and like my friends are not from farming background, like they are city girls, and I always kind of tell the story because genuinely they are so interested in what I do. And I've one friend, doctor, and she's just amazed that we're anesthetists, you know, we're surgeons, we're medics, we're everything in one. And, you know, she was like, I saw you send Snapchats to my friends of calvings. And then I remember I had a double-headed calf one time and I took a picture of it, and literally everyone I met, like it was around Christmas, and everyone like, you, oh Hazel, show them the double-headed calf, and people were just so interested. And then I kind of, Instagram then took off, and I had a kind of a very small personal page, just put up like nice pictures of like my holidays. And then I decided I put up 1 or 2 kind of cow pictures and things like that, and my friends were kind of like, Hazel, why don't you maybe expand on that and do cases and show like what you're up to. And I think it was definitely more my friends influenced me and gave me the idea. And then I remember we were over in Croatia on a beach with my friend Sinead, who I was talking about earlier, that I met in school. And she said, Hazel, you need a name, you need a pun. And I was like, oh, I'm really bad at puns. And so she was like, what about Vet on the Move? So that's where Vet on the Move came from. So yeah, on a beach in Croatia, that's where that was created. And yeah, so then I just started on that beach. Then I started kind of looking at other kind of vet bloggers on Instagram and seeing what they were doing, and just started following a load of different accounts. And I suppose Cody Creelman was there and Jared the vet, and just saw what they were doing and see like, was there any other kind of female large animal vets doing what they were doing in Ireland. And there kind of wasn't anyone particular. Like there was a couple in the UK and there was a couple in the US as well. And yeah, I just think I got inspiration from everyone I follow. And then I suppose then I had to take my own take on it and do my own thing. And yeah, it just kind of, I was very lucky. I got some amazing you know, breaks from, you know, people tagging me in different things, and like yourself, like when we did the dairy day together, like that was amazing for the Farmers Journal, and like that really catapulted me up, you know, with the followers and everything. And yeah, I was just very lucky, and yeah, just snowballed from there. And I think the community on there is just so lovely. Like I have like really, really good friends that I've never met in person, but we like send voice messages to each other, and we, you know, like, and we tag each other in different things, and then there's kind of like ongoing jokes. And yeah, it's just a lovely place to be. But look, there's negativity the odd time as well, but generally
it seems to be so. Like I use social media for shameless self promotion, and I'm kind of content with that, right? But I do use it as well to engage, and I learn an awful lot. I've been very lucky to make connections with it. But Instagram seems to be this kind of place where it is a little bit, well, maybe I just don't know how to use it, but it seems a bit more friendly. The vibes are good, and people are more positive. But you know, so it's been like for you, social media, because I think a lot of people would know you through the stuff you do, but I think you do a lot of really good clinical assessments and updates as well. And that's what the farmers are saying to me is, oh, she's a follow Hazel Mullins, she's brilliant. She is, you know, about IBR, she has all the details, or Neospora. So I think you provide a lot of really valuable clinical information to farmers. And I think you said it earlier on, you feel a bit of pressure because you have so many young vets who now look up to you.
Yeah. And I think like when I had couple of thousand followers, I definitely, you know, my posts were a lot more regular, because now I really have to think about what I'm putting up, and like nearly do a proper like lit review before I put up a post, because there is like so many eyes on it, and I don't want to be putting anything false on there, and I want to be giving the best information I can. And like my friends give out, they're like, Hazel, they're like essays, you need to cut them down. But then I start and I'm like, yeah, I'll just do a couple of points.
Just
and
more lines, just five more lines.
Yeah, next thing it's turned into like a proper, like, you know, and then in nearly every post I do as well, Instagram tells me it's too long. So it's so annoying, because you might have so much other stuff written and you have to get rid of it. And then But look, I just think I have to change the way. I might have to do maybe 2 or 3 posts on a certain topic instead of trying, because I do feel like I'm kind of putting them off in my mind now, because I've built them up to these big things that I have to put like nearly a lit review standard behind. But I just think that we all have knowledge as vets. We all come out with the same basic, knowledge out of vet school, and we all have something to offer. And I just, like, I really didn't think it would take off the way it has, and I'm just like thrilled and so grateful for every single follower. It's brilliant. But it's just good to engage with people and promote what we do every day. It's brilliant.
Continued successful, because you really are a sort of an ambassador for certainly large animal profession. I think the profession in general. And taking it to the profession, your veterinary profession, that you're a vet and I'm a vet, you're very, very proud of that. And you started something this year, probably it was maybe the start of this year, maybe end of last year, that was very much about promoting well-being and positive messages in veterinary world. And I think it's been a really positive initiative that's grown legs. Do you want to tell people a little about that?
Yeah, so Vets Face Ireland, that's I assume that's what you're talking about, Tom.
unless you've some other gems hidden away from
No.
I didn't know about the greyhound training.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's.
But I knew you had greyhounds. I just didn't know you were a trainer.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's a loose word now. Like I walk.
You're now a greyhound trainer. There's no turning back. The internet.
I'm an owner trainer. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, Vets Face Ireland. Yeah, it's a initiative founded by myself and Michelle McGuire, and Michelle is was a vet nurse. She qualified as a vet nurse, and now she is a practice manager, and she worked in industry, and she just saw that there was a gap in the market really for a place where vets in Ireland can chat and talk about things, and maybe just education and mental health. And so we like promote a lot of CPD events and anything basically that's any way relevant to any vet in Ireland, we will try and promote. And yeah, it's good. We do lives and podcasts. Tommy, thank you so much for coming on as our first guest. Lots of positive reviews from that, and we really enjoyed it. And yeah, we've just got a lot of ideas. It's just trying to, we both work full time, so it's hard to maybe just pinpoint those ideas and go. And like, I think it's developed now into nearly like it is a business now, and we didn't really know what we were doing or where we were going. And it's brilliant. It's really taken off, and as we just love the positivity of it. And we did a campaign, Vets Get Physical, last month for charity, for the Aware charity for mental health. And yeah, everyone was just brilliant. They got involved and they tagged us and they donated, and it was just such a good movement. It was great. So yeah, we're hoping to do a lot more of those things. Like, we're hoping now to when COVID eventually calms down even a little bit, we'll be able to meet maybe in small groups and go for hikes, or just kind of creating a social side and a community. Because I think for me anyway, at the moment, I'm missing meeting other vets, and I used to go to so many CPD events and talks, and I loved it. And now I had a meeting the other night on Zoom, and there was people from the Clinical Society, and it was just like, oh, I missed you all. And yeah, it was just lovely to see everyone. So it is, and it probably came, we created VetSpace before COVID hit, and actually we couldn't have created it at a better time, because it just grew and everyone kind of needed something to maybe follow and be a part of. So yeah, it's good.
Well done to you. It takes huge courage and guts to set something like that up, to have the conviction to do it and continue to do it. So well done on that front. I've been talking to you for a long time, and this is so I've asked you lots of questions. I've learned a few little bits that I didn't know. So that was it. Lessons that you've learned along the way. Like, you're very much at the start of your career, even though maybe seeing like you're 7 years qualified, you'd probably maybe mightn't consider that, but I think you're just the start of many opportunities will be ahead of you. Lessons learned both in work and life along the way that have been really molded you, that have maybe shaped you, or some of the hard lessons, some of the good lessons. Is that a hard question?
break it down. So probably life. There's no set plan.
Right.
And there's always plan Bs and plan Cs and plan Ds. And, I suppose as society, we have a certain route that society wants us to take. And, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And look, it's okay. Everyone has a different path. And I think that's okay. And I have had battles with that. Society should say that I should be married with 2 kids and in a house by now, and and I'm not. So look, it is what it is. But I'm very happy, and I think you just have to, enjoying making taking, even if a day isn't amazing, just taking little bits of joy out of a day and just trying to focus on those as well. That's another point. Work, don't let it, I suppose, consume you. I definitely let veterinary maybe just take over my life at certain points, and just always ask for help as well. Don't be afraid to open broaden your horizons and try new challenges as well. I think so they're kind of
massive words of wisdom. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been fantastic. Keep up the good work. I think everyone will probably know you at this stage, but those who don't would be endeared by your humility, honesty, and your passion for what you do, and your attitude is superb. So it's always a pleasure to chat to you. In the real world at Zoom, you're very uplifting, and I genuinely wish you continued success in your career.
Thank you so much, and you keep the Ag Inspire up as well. Now I know you're
I said I did 20. I said I did 25 episodes, and I will. But my God, I'll be pulling the handbrake up to less frequent conversations.
Maybe after Christmas, maybe just do one a month. And
I think and you gave me that advice, and I think See, I'm very much, when I say I'll do something, I have to do it. Nothing will. That's my own business. Bother, but it's been great, and it's been wonderful to have so many different diverse views, and there's so many similarities though between the different people that I've spoken to. It was James Moore, an environmentalist last week, to vets, to people involved in all levels of the agri-industry, farmers, and maybe it's my own bias, but it's the curious people who are learning with positive attitudes, willing to make a difference. And that's what, to me, is Ag Inspire is about, is people like you who are not going to be telling the world what the way it should be. You make your own, you make your own world, and you bring a lot of positivity into it. So
I think I love listening to them, so please don't stop. And I think you've done an amazing job of bringing different people from all different areas. And I think as a vet, a large animal vet, I could listen to every single one of them and find relevance in every single one. So that's a great achievement of yours. So well done.
Thank you. We're both making each other on that positive note, and that flow of positivity. Hazel Mullins, thank you very much for
Thanks so much. Bye.